Hi everybody, it's Susan from Sunrise Quilt Studio and welcome to week 29 of the Stash Buster block series. Our block today is called the ribbon block, and when you put all these together it makes a kind of a chevron look. It kind of looks like a ribbon. This block is made with two colors and it's made with lots of half square triangles, and we have this unit here which we've done before, but it's a little bit different because this piece here is a half square triangle. But I'll show you how to do all this, and I hope you'll stick around and watch the video. Okay, this is the sample of the ribbon block, and here are the fabrics that you will need to make one of these blocks. You're going to need two different fabrics. You'll need a background and your main fabric, and from your dark fabric you're going to cut two squares that are 4 7/8 of an inch square, and then you're going to cut them in half diagonally so that you have 4 triangles. You're also going to need two squares that are 2 7/8 inch square, and you'll need 6 squares of your background that are 2 7/8. Now 2 of those squares you're going to draw a diagonal line on them from corner to corner, and then the other 4 squares you're going to cut in half on the diagonal so that you'll have 8 triangles. Now this block is a little bit complicated, but more it's figuring out which way to press your seams. So we're going to start with these units here that have the small triangle in it. These are the half square triangles that are in the bigger unit, and we're going to take our 2 7/8 inch main fabric and match it right sides together with the 2 7/8 inch background fabric, and then stitch a 1/4 inch away from the drawn line on both sides. So we'll go to the sewing machine and do that. Now if you have a different method of doing half square triangles, you use that method, and what you want is to end up with a square that is 2 1/2 inches. So I'm just going to stitch a 1/4 inch away, on both sides. So I'm just going to swing this around and stitch down this side. And then I'll take my last square and we'll do the same thing. And I'm just going to chain piece these two together. Okay, now we're going to cut these half square triangles in half, and then we're going to press. Now the block, when it goes together, it can be a little bit difficult getting things lined up, especially right in here on this seam here that goes through this triangle area. If your seams like this one are all pressed in the same direction, let's see, these two are both pressed down and these two are both pressed down, those seams can kind of move on you and it's hard to get them to line up. So what you want to do is to press one of these triangles in a different direction. Okay, for pressing these triangles, I want to follow an example of a block that I've already done. To get nice points here and get this seam lined up here, your triangles really need to be pressed in opposite directions. So you can see here at the top I've got this fabric pressed towards the dark, this one pressed towards the light, and then at the bottom of the triangle this is pressed towards the light and this is pressed towards the dark. So we're going to be working on this unit here, and for this one I've got the fabric pressed towards the light. So I want to go ahead and press one towards the light, and this other one is going to be pressed towards the dark. So I'm going to put the dark side up. Well, actually that's pressed towards the dark. I want this one pressed towards the light. So I want the light side up, and then we're going to press it this direction. You may find that doing a test block first will help you out. So here I have this triangle will go here, this triangle will go here, like this. So if I am working on this unit, this is one that's pressed towards the light. I'm going to go ahead and trim off my dog ears because they just, they don't help anything. They get in my way and they just actually just create bulk that I really don't need to deal with. Okay, so then I need to get one of my white triangles to go here and one here, and that creates this unit here. So I'm going to go ahead and sew this seam here, and then on this one it is pressed towards the dark fabric. So let's go ahead and sew this seam, and then I'll bring it back and we'll do the pressing. Okay, so I've got that one sewn, and this goes right here, and I have that pressed towards the dark. So it really wants to go this direction, but I'm going to make it go this direction. So we're gonna fold it like that and press it that direction. And then I'm gonna go ahead and snip off that little dog ear. And then I'm going to sew this seam here. Okay, and then I've got a little dog ear there. And then this seam can be pressed towards the little triangle. So that's this unit here, and you can see how they are pressed the same direction, and then these will be pressed in just the opposite direction. So we'll go ahead and sew the purple triangle onto that, and we'll see how that goes. And you need to watch how your dark triangle or your main fabric triangle is laying, because these are mirror imaged. You're going to have two triangles that look like this, and then you're going to have two that are just mirror imaged. So, and you need to watch where those go in your block. And I'm going to take one of the large purple triangles, and I'm going to sew these together, and I'm going to watch the point here, and hopefully I will sew that right across that intersection there, and that way I'll have a nice point. So we'll see how that goes. Okay, here is the unit. I have it pressed so that the piece triangle is going towards the dark fabric, so the dark triangle. I have this diagonal seam pressed towards the white, and then I have this seam here pressed towards the dark. So when I make the unit that goes next to it, I want everything to go in the reverse order. So let's go ahead and lay that one out, and what we'll have is the half square triangle is going to meet, and this is one that I've already pressed to the dark side, so that's already started for me. Background triangle will go here and here, and you want to just line up your squares, your right angles to each other, so that way you form a triangle. So let's go ahead and sew these two pieces together. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and clip my little dog ears off. Get that out of the way. And now I need to press, and what I want to do is I can press this one either way. It really isn't going to matter because this one is going up at the top. So I'm just going to press this towards the little triangle. So I have that one pressed, and I keep referring to this first unit that it's going to match up to. Now I need to sew this little triangle on. So we're going to sew that on right here. Okay, and this one is going to go here, so I want, since this seam is pressed up, I want this seam to be pressed down, so I'm going to press that one down. I got the seams pressed in the opposite direction, so they will nest together really well when I get to sewing these two units together. But first I need to sew the purple triangle onto this unit. So let me do that. And I'm going to put this unit up top so that I can see the seams where they come together, and watch my point here. That unit is sewn together right here. So I'm going to press, and I'm going to compare it to this one again. And since this seam is pressed down, I'm going to press this seam up. And that way when I lay these two units together, every single seam will be pressed in the opposite direction, and that should go together real nicely for me. I'm going to trim off the dog ears and then sew these two together. So I'm just going to match seams. I'm going to butt up every single seam, and then it should go together, and I should have a nice looking unit when I'm done. So we'll see how that goes. And I'm just using my fingers to feel how they're nested together, but you can pin them if you want. Okay, that looks pretty good to me. So here we go. There's our top unit. Now I'm going to hold off pressing this seam until I get the other two units made and sewn together. And then I'll know which direction I need to press those. So I'm just going to lay this aside. And I already have one unit made, and that is going in the bottom left corner. So I'm going to work on the other one. I got ahead of myself and I made this unit that goes down here, and you can see how I had that pressed. I have all of the seams pressed out on this little triangle here. So this unit that goes over here, I'll have this, the big triangle, the purple triangle there, have that. And this, and then this triangle is going to go this direction. So when I put these together, the only things that have to match up is this point here. So right now I can just sew these three pieces together and not worry about which way I press the seams, because it's not going to interfere with anything. This unit up here, these two units joining together, is the one that you need to do things in opposite directions. So I'm going to go ahead and sew these two together, and then I'll add this one and then this unit here. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and clip my little dog ear off and press this open, and I'm going to press it away from the purple triangle because that's kind of the path of least resistance, so I'm going to do that. Okay, and now I have to put this triangle on. So if you look at this unit, you know, you're wanting to make a bigger triangle, so you want to put those two pieces together. So I'm going to do that. And then once again, I'll clip threads and I'll clip off the dog ear. And I do that because there's a lot of bulk right in that area, and I don't want that. So I'm going to trim that off. And I'm going to press that, and I'm going to trim the rest of that because there's still, I want to trim that point flush here so I have a straight line. So I'll do that. And then I'm going to use my shears for that because there's like 4 or 5 layers of fabric right there. Okay, and now sew it to the purple triangle. And when I get to this point, I'm watching where my stitching lines all cross, and I'm trying to stitch on this side of the area where they cross, just like a threads width away. Okay, so I've got that sewn on, and I pressed towards the piece triangle on this one because the triangle that it is going opposite of is pressed towards the solid triangle, the purple triangle. So now I need to put these two together, and if you can see here, now that I've got those pressed in opposite directions, those will butt up right next to each other. They'll nest together, and it'll give me a nice point. So that's why I went to the trouble of putting them in opposite directions. I still have that dog ear to trim off, but I'm going to sew that next, and then I'll press, and then I can sew the 2 rows together. So I'm going to get this all lined up. Okay, I'm going to trim threads, and I'm going to trim the dog ears off on both sides because I didn't get this one trimmed earlier. Okay, and there we go. So now I have a nice point right there where those 2 seams meet. So now I need to press the seams on both of the rows and then sew the rows together. Okay, this is how the 2 rows are going to go together. This is the top of the block, and this is the bottom. And we can press these however we want. We can press the seams to the side. Like if I have these seams pressed this direction, then I'd want to press the seams on this one this direction. Or we could press them open, and it's just personal preference, whatever you want to do. So if you feel like you've got too much bulk and you want to press them open, you go ahead and do that. Now on the sample block, I pressed them in opposite directions, and I think I'll go ahead and do that. One tip: if you are making a quilt full of these and you're going to have them all lined up one right after the other, you know, you're just going to set them in a straight set. you'll need to consider how these seams are pressed here. That will be important. And if you follow the example that I showed you and you press them in opposite directions, when you put the next row up against that, they should all nest together well, like at least on one side. Now this one is different. These two seams are pressed the same direction, so you would have to either press that one up or just take extra care when you sew these together, because it will want to shift one way or the other because they are pressed the same direction. But that's part of the design of this. It makes it a little bit more challenging, but you can do that. So I've got these two pressed, and now I just need to sew them together, and the only seam I have to match is this one in the center. And since they are pressed in different directions, that should go together well. And I can see my stitching lines where they cross here, and so I can stitch right on this side of that crossed section, and hopefully we'll get a nice point there. And the point is what I want is to have a nice white point here. I don't want it cut off. So let's see if I can manage to do that. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and place a pin in here to try and keep things in order. And then I'm going to go ahead and sew using my 1/4 inch seam allowance, of course. Got an extra piece of fabric there. And then just go ahead and slow down a little bit when I come to that intersection. Now with my 1/4 inch piecing foot, it is a little bit hard to see exactly where the needle is going into the fabric, just because of the way the foot is made, because it is very narrow right there. It's not an open toe foot at all, so it's a little bit difficult. And I think I did okay though. Yeah, it looks good. So there, I got a pretty nice point right there. So now I need to press this seam, and I can do the same. I can press it to one side, or I can press it open, whichever I want to do. And I think I'm just going to press this to one side. Okay, I'm just going to press this one down. I usually like to press away from the points. I think that makes them look nicer. So here we go. Here is the ribbon block. Now I'm going to lay out, I have 4 of them made, so I want to lay those out and show you what they look like side by side. Okay, here I have 4 of the ribbon blocks sewn up, and I thought I'd show you what they look like when they're side by side. You have this look. They're all side by side with no sashing in between, and you get a larger triangle formed, like when you had this triangle that is formed here is also formed when you have the 2 blocks together. So you've got this part of a ribbon, like a white ribbon with some purple in it, and then you have the purple ribbon. So it can make an interesting block. And you can also turn them so that they're facing each other, and then you have a different look here. Now that's you know, your choice. You do however you want it. You can just do row by row like this, or you can turn them this way, and then the white ribbon kind of disappears, but then you have this look here. So that's kind of interesting. Let's see, what else could you do? You could turn them like this. Let's do this. Figure out how I need to do this. Okay, here we go. And then you have like a pinwheel in the center, but you know, you've lost the ribbon, but it gives you kind of an interesting look, I think. So there are a couple of different things that you can do with this block. And let's see, this is just the same look, just kind of sideways. It's the same look as what I had going this way. So it depends on how you have your quilt face, but this makes kind of an hourglass block right there. So that would be something a little bit different too. So, you know, try different things with your blocks and see how you like them laid out. So there's the kind of the opposite look. So anyway, I think it's interesting, so hope you give this a try, and I hope you enjoy it. Well, I hope you enjoyed this video on the ribbon block, and I hope you'll give this one a try. It's a little bit different from ones that we've done before. I think it's pretty interesting. And if you like this video, I hope you will click the like button, and don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already, and click that notification bell so you'll be notified when the next video comes up. And in the meantime, I hope you're all staying safe and staying healthy, and I'll see you in the next video. Thanks for watching. For more quilting ideas, click on the video links. And to keep up with my latest projects, click on the subscribe button. I hope to see you again soon.